Welcome back, my friends. Welcome back. I am Omar Krieg. Olaf is, of course, off because he never actually does these things. He just fills out the paperwork, and then I get to sit here and do this stuff. So, this is the week in review for the preliminaries round. Earlier this week, over the last 2 weeks, real time, we have had our two preliminary matches involving the Dover Crows and the Remoran opposition, as well as the Cyan Spirits and the Rock City Wolverines. So we're going to talk about those matches briefly. We'll take a look at what the quarterfinals round will look like for the 3025 Trinity Cup Championship playoffs. And then, of course, Olaf's wonderful predictions. So, let's get into it. Starting off with a reminder of where we sat at the end of the regular season. This is after 9 weeks of regular season competition. We ended up with the Lyran Debutantes in first place on a technicality. You see there that they are tied with the American Industrialists for cumulative VP, but the League of Officials have determined that the Lyran Debutantes are officially first place on the fact that the Debutantes have more wins than the Industrialists. As you can see there, working our way down from 1st to 10th. The bottom four positions, the Dover Crows, Rock City Wolverines, Cyan Spirits, and the Remoran opposition, they needed to go through a preliminary round in order to take the last two slots of an 8-team single elimination tournament in order to determine who will be the 3025 Trinity Cup champions. And those are the two matches we're going to talk about. First, let's talk about kills. Probably not a big jump from what we saw last week, although there are some number shifts, both on the individual pilot side and on the team side. Of course, the teams that had kills got moved up. I don't remember the exact numbers of what they were before, but just as a quick show, Clift is still in the lead with 10 kills overall for the Debutantes, followed closely by Zhao and Vamsi for the Industrialists and the Dragonborn, respectively. As far as teams go, Debutantes are in the lead with 18 kills for the team. The Industrialists are close behind with 17, and then the Dragonborn of 15. The Golden Suns and Crows tied at 12, and as you can see, it starts dropping off from there. Let's talk about the first of the two matches. Dover Crows, an expansion team. This was their first season. They made it into the preliminaries based on the fact that they finished in number 7th place, I think it was. I don't recall specifically off the top of my head. But ultimately, they took on the Remoran opposition. And since they were able to get their imp out of the repair bay, the Crows went out on the field with an imp and a medium and a light. And they didn't make short work of their opponents, but the opposition did have a tough time getting anywhere going up against that imp. Ultimately, the Remoran opposition, despite their really good gunnery, they did not do enough to keep the Crows down, so the Crows will advance to the quarterfinals. Remoran opposition, they took on the Dover Crows this year in the preliminary round, finishing, I believe, in 8th or 9th place. Despite their best efforts, the opposition took a heavy loss, and they have been summarily removed from the postseason play. They will be returning in the 3026 season. Of course, the 3026 season will be one of our in-between seasons that we're just going to game out with some random dice rolls, similar to what we did for the 3023 and 3024 season before the start of the 25 season. At any rate, the Remoran opposition, they're not going anywhere. They will be back the next time you see the regular season of competition. Rock City Wolverines. This team has had the toughest time ever. They went 8 consecutive weeks without a single win, finally winning in the 9th week against a team that basically was like, we don't care. We're already locked in the playoffs. They went up against the Cyan Spirits. They brought out a pair of Warhammers out onto the field, and then those two Warhammers were summarily beaten by the Spirits. And thus, of course, the Wolverines have been eliminated from the postseason, and frankly, it remains quite unclear as to whether or not they will return in 3026. I have another team. I'm speaking outside of, out of character, as it were. But I have another team lined up to take their place, but I don't know if I'm actually going to bring them in or if I'm going to subject the Wolverines to more and more, well, let's just say problems as the seasons continue. I haven't made up my mind yet. Lastly, for the 4 teams that competed this week, We have the Cyan Spirits finishing out, I believe, in ninth place prior to this match. They took on the let's see, preliminaries opponent. They took on the Wolverines, and despite the sheer number of PPCs fired against them, because of those two Warhammers that the Wolverines brought out, the Spirits remained resolute in their fight against the Wolverines and ultimately took the win from them, and they will now advance into the quarterfinals. Speaking of the quarterfinals, let's take a look at what that bracket looks like. So, as you can see, the opposition and the Wolverines have been eliminated. They are red. That means our first round of tournament play will have the Dover Crows taking on the Debutantes, the Golden Suns taking on the Nationals, the Dragonborn and the Honeybees facing off, and then lastly, the Industrialists taking on the Spirits. Oh, I probably should have transitioned to that side, but here we go. As a reminder, each team will be rolling a 1d6 roll against each other. Whoever has the higher number will be the home team. Try to randomize this a little bit so that way the better teams don't constantly have all the advantage throughout the tournament. Those, I believe, 4 teams that have a stadium will have a +2 bonus on this roll so they can partake in those benefits that the stadium provides. Those 4 teams are, of course, the Debutantes, the Golden Suns, the Dragonborn, and the Industrialists. Yes, one of the NPC teams did get a stadium this season, and they will be using it if it comes up in their favor. Of course, that 4th match there, the Industrialists versus the Cyan Spirits, that will be played by me against the bot. Whichever team has the home field advantage will be the team I'm playing. So, on the next screen, we're going to take a look at Olaf's predictions. Hopefully, those predictions stand regardless of which team I play. At any rate, let's get there. Olaf's predictions. The Crows versus the Debutantes. I see this match easily going in favor of the Debutantes, and that's not to say anything against my own son, who is the player for the Dover Crows. But frankly, both narratively speaking and in Grimdark's James' experience, this is going to be a tough match for Talus or the Crows to come out on top of. On one hand, the Debutantes, they've just totally turned their team around. Grimdark James is a wonderful battle-type player. He's been playing this game. He's been demoing this game for years and years and years. Whereas my son, this is pretty much outside of something like MechWarrior Online or MechWarrior 5. This is pretty much his big first dive into anything more BattleTech related than other stuff. That said, my son is a crafty son of a gun, and I would not put it past him to pull off some sneaky little trick that gives him some advantage that nobody thinks about until the moment he does it, and then we're all confounded and we watch as the Crows manage to sneak by with a victory and eliminate the Debutantes. We'll see how that turns out. Golden Suns versus the Nationals. This is going to be a match between Foehammer and myself. I talk a lot of smack to the Foehammer because it's funny. I love to troll him. He's a good guy about it, though, and frankly, he just is a good guy. That said, Golden Suns versus the Nationals, I'm pretty sure the Golden Suns are going to win. I am a decent player myself in this game, and Foehammer and I have probably gone roughly neck and neck in matches against each other, historically speaking, but I think the Golden Suns overall are going to beat the Nationals. Remember, for a good bit of this season, the Nationals were the butt of every joke. I've used that line a couple of times when talking about them. Of course, I have to troll Foehammer a little bit when I say something like, the real question is whether or not the Countess herself takes the field and actually accomplishes something for her team or something for the Nationals. Dragonborn versus Honeybees. This is going to be another match that'll be very interesting to watch, only because this is, or not, I shouldn't say only, but because this is a player versus player match. This is Darius's team taking on Luke's team. I would really like to see the Honeybees win, and not because of anything against Luke, or excuse me, against anything against Darius, but simply because it would be great for the Honeybees and their story if they beat the Dragonborn. Unfortunately, the Dragonborn have, among other things, a massive assault mech that is an absolute terror on the field. So I don't know how that's going to work out for this match. I feel like it's probably going to be the Dragonborn that are going to walk away the winners here. But when I say that, I obviously don't want to say anything negative against Luke, who has, over 2 seasons of play, grown quite a bit as a BattleTech player. So I'm very curious to see how this match goes. This will almost be a defining moment, a penultimate moment in Luke's BattleTech, well, for lack of a better thing to call it, career. So very interested in seeing how this match goes. Industrialists versus the Spirits. This will be a NPC versus NPC match. So whichever team ends up being the home team, I will be playing them and playing against the bot. The bot representing the opposing team. All that said, looking on paper at the very least, and historically speaking, the Industrialists are very much likely going to have this match, no problems. The Spirits just cannot contend with the skill and the firepower that the Industrialists bring. Depending on which loadout the Industrialists go with, which they will likely do because it's the championship playoffs, is an awful lot of lasers, and it's hard to repel that kind of firepower. Not to borrow phrases from other franchises, but frankly, when you've got a lot of lasers coming at you, it's hard to contend with that. And frankly, that's part of the reason why the Industrialists have done so well this year is because of the advanced mech and the high energy loadout they have. So I'll be curious to see how that match goes. It is an NPC only match, so hopefully, what I would love to see is the Industrialists end up in the finals, only to get smacked around a little bit, make it a very tough fight for their player team opponent. But that's how stories are written, not necessarily how stories always go in this sort of venue. All right, well, that is, I believe, it. Yep, that is it for this weekly review. So coming up over the next week or two, we will be getting everything set up for the quarterfinals matches. We'll get matches scheduled. We'll start getting matches played. And then, of course, after that, we'll have our quarterfinal weekend review. In the meantime, today is Saturday, the 13th of April. This video will be live by the morning of the 14th. There will be some Star Wars stuff going out. There will be some Star Trek Online stuff going out. There will be Alien RPG going out. There's going to be plenty of content out there, so keep watching. Keep your eye open. Keep your eyes out. We're out there. We're doing stuff. We're making content. I'm rambling at this point, so let's just get out of here. If you enjoyed everything we've done so far, in the description for every one of my videos is a link for the Discord server. Come on down, hang out with us, and maybe even join us in some of our gameplay, like, Star Trek Online, where I'm trying to create a fleet, or other games where I'm trying to create their version of fleet, whatever the case might be. At any rate, let's get out of here. Stay safe out there, my friends. This world is a crazy, dark place. Make sure you're doing what you got to do to take care of you and yours. And as for me and mine, we're out of here. Have a good one, my friends. We'll see you next time.